This is aisle 42. When a snack company bakes sustainability right into their name, you know that they're deeply committed to making good things for people and the planet. In this episode, I go behind the scenes with Sheena Russell, the founder and CEO of Made with Local, Canada's first B Corp Certified snack food company. You're going to learn about how they source fresh, better tasting ingredients from local farmers, how they made their start at farmers markets, how they worked with social enterprise kitchens and now make their own snack bars, and how they fly in the face of all the greenwashing out there. Sheena gives a damn about the planet, the food they make, and the humans they make it for. I think you're really going to love this episode. All right, let's jump into the future of food with Sheena from Made with Local. Sheena, you and I have been connected for a few years now, and I've been a big fan too. My family used to buy your Made with Local bag of ingredients, and just like an IKEA project, we would bake our own soft baked bars. I love those memories with my daughter. But before we get into your amazing story and your brand and your product and your sustainability efforts, I have a warm-up question for you. So just, like Wayne's World, go back in time. Doo-doo, doo-doo. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Go into the future, 25, 50, 100 years from now. If you were to imagine the perfect grocery store of the future, what would it look like?
Oh, for me, that's a no-brainer. It's one that's hyper plugged into bringing local food to consumers in a way that feels really accessible. And I think that has to be the way of the future, right? We need to be able to localize our supply chain, and we need to be able to create a stronger sense of food sovereignty in Canada through the different regions, whether it be, Atlantic or Central or West. One of the scariest things that I see happening in grocery stores right now is that in a place here like Nova Scotia, for example, which has one of the larger orchard industries in Canada, I'm still able to buy a New Zealand apple in a grocery store like more readily than I can find one that was grown here in my own backyard. So for me, it's all about figuring out those systems and processes to allow grocery stores to work on a more local supply chain basis.
That's awesome. Have you been seeing some of these changes in the produce aisle where they're growing like fresh vegetables or herbs or things under lights right in the grocery store? It's pretty wild. I bought a little bit of them, but the future of the grocery store, it's going to be, I hope it's exciting.
Me too.
I really do. All right, so let's take a step back, and I want to explore why and how you make these amazing food bars. And I want to kind of trace the value chain a little bit here because I feel it's an important part of sustainability and an important part of your story. So there's a bit of a thread that kind of goes through it. Let's talk about ingredients. You have farmers, not just suppliers. Like they're right on your website. Your ingredients are grown by like Dave and Evelyn. They grow your cranberries and David Griffin, he's your hemp farmer and so many more. And that's pretty unique. Transparency is a beautiful thing. Can you tell us a little bit about your farmers and why this piece of the puzzle is so important to the connection that you're building with consumers?
Sure. So our relationship with our farmer producers started back when we were a farmers market table ourselves at Made with Local. So we started making our bars in a friend's cafe after hours about 10 years ago. And the mission that we had right from the earliest days of this company revolved around this idea that we could make the best snack on the market and we could do it using ingredients that were locally produced and grown. So we went to the farmers market literally thinking of that as almost like our distributor catalog, like where most big CPG companies, or lots of them for sure, are trying to think about, how many ingredients can I get on one truck delivered to me all at once? We kind of thought about the farmers market as the epicenter of where we were going to be able to get the inspiration to create our foods. So a lot of those relationships that we formed in those early days, like with Dave and Evelyn of Terrabiata Cranberries, like Tom and Mary Ann from Cosmin and Wood and Honey, and so many more, we've been working with them since that's 11 or 12 years ago now that we've been putting their beautiful ingredients into our bars. And One thing that I was told consistently every step of the way in the growth of this company was that, in kind of a condescending way, often, oh, that's really cute that you can do that now. But, one of these days, you're going to have to grow up and start using, a big multinational source for those ingredients, if you really want to make it. And I love that we have been able to stick to our guns on our commitment to sourcing all of our ingredients from farmers, food producers, ethical suppliers that we have access to here in Canada. And our product is better for it. I'm going off on a little bit of tangent already on you here, Corwin.
Tangent away.
Story. But one thing that I really want to drive home to, and our existing customer community already know this, but one thing that I like to really drive home is that our products taste amazing because of the incredible obsession that we have with sourcing the best possible ingredients. So it's like exceptional quality ingredients in means that coming out is an exceptional quality bar, right? It's not an accident or a coincidence that we are so laser focused on sourcing these very sustainably and transparently sourced foods. That quite literally is why our product is, I think, the best tasting on the market. And
it has to taste good. Like even the performance of a bar, the flavor, the taste, the texture, everything about it has to really hit for consumers, especially, to grow that consumer base, for them to get excited about it. It really needs to be amazing. And I think that's one of the things you guys are obviously solving, is just like, yeah, it tastes great. And by the way, these people help make it.
Absolutely.
Tell us about this Farmer Direct Organic thing. Is it a program, a certification, or are there tractors lined up outside your garage door every morning? Like, what is that? What's that program?
The Farmer Direct Organic?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Farmer Direct Organic is actually one of our suppliers. So we partner with them to source regenerative organic certified oats, which is the number one ingredient in all of our products now. So that's a transition that we made this year. We transitioned from using a conventionally grown gluten-free oat to now partnering with Farmer Direct Organic to source oats that are grown in such a way that it actually fixes carbon in the soil in a much greater quantity than other agricultural methods would. And therefore, regenerative agriculture is now being seen as a major tool in our tool belt to fight climate change. So it's a really, I was going to say innovative, but it's actually not innovative process. It's an ancient process. Of course, the communities that attended to this land here in Canada for millennia before we were doing westernized agriculture here. The indigenous communities understood regenerative agriculture very intensely, right? They completely understood that we needed to always have cover crops on our soil, and we needed to practice lower, they weren't churning up the soil like we do through high till conventional methods. And so a lot of these learnings are coming back full circle into modern agriculture and are being named essentially as regenerative organic, which is the certification that we partner or that we have on the oats that we source from Farmer Direct Organic.
It's very cool. Very cool. And sticking with certifications and groups, and that you're now B Corp. And if I'm not mistaken, you were the first snack bar company in Canada to become B Corp certified, correct?
I believe so. That we became B Corp certified in 2019. Yeah.
That was a long time ago. It feels like a long time ago, especially in B Corp world.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing. So talk to us about that process, that vetting process. Why is it important to you? And how do you feel like consumers are responding to that level of transparency?
For us, it was something ever since I heard about B Corp certification as a consumer, I knew that it was going to be the certification that we were going to go at full tilt, because it embodies so much, right? It's not a singular, data point or a singular process. B Corp certification goes through your entire company with an extremely fine-toothed comb and holds you up to a global standard that has proven to only over time, now that we've been a B Corp for 4 years, they're continuing to get more and more stringent as to what counts as joining that group of companies that are deemed to be the most sustainable and transparent in the world. So for us, it was important for me to like follow through with that certification, even as an early stage business. And now for us to use is really a guide map, I would say, as we get bigger and our team grows and we understand, where we want to see this business go into the future, we can look to the B Corp community and the B Corp processes and say, okay, what are the best practices and how do we continue to push forward in this way in the business community?
Yeah. It's actually, I have your snack bar here. I had to steal one before my daughter ate it. You actually have it right on your pack, right on the back of the package. Have you always, as soon as you got it, did you put it on pack right away? Was the B Corp certification logo sort of like, all right, we're gonna make sure everyone sees this and knows about it right away?
Yeah, absolutely. And, being an early-ish adopter, I would say, especially in Canada, it was important for us. And we understood in the early days of us coming on board that there was, we had a responsibility to help promote this certification as well, because, especially 4 years ago and even today, it still isn't quite, super duper mainstream, right? It's still something that feels like it's gaining steam. And we wanted to make sure that we were promoting it on our packaging, on our website, and then obviously also on our social media through storytelling there, because we want to be part of the education that goes out into the world.
Yeah, given we're in the natural organic space, I feel like we hear about B Corp a lot, but it doesn't take, you start looking up directories of, Canadian food companies and B Corp, and the list is pretty short. It's a lot shorter than sort of the buzz would make you think. So there's a lot of room to grow for food brands in Canada that are sort of putting themselves up to that level of scrutiny and vetting and support networks. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Do you find that do consumers react to it and comment on like, oh, I saw that you're B Corp? And is it part of that consumer conversation?
Yeah. And now more than ever, we just came off a trade show a couple of days ago where we had so many people coming by. And actually on our trade show booth, we have a big pop out that's like backlit. It's the main call out on our entire booth beside, the name of the company. And it definitely catches lots of eyes. And we have lots of, oh, you guys are B Corp too. That's so awesome. I've always wanted, to learn more about that. Or, that's my goal for my company someday too. And I know your question is more around consumers, but the folks, regardless of who you are at these trade shows, you're also a consumer. So that's something that we pay a lot of attention to in environments like that. And we do hear about it from our customers via social media and inbounds around their excitement to keep their eye out for more B Corp brands, and that being a big factor in why they buy from us.
Yeah, it's a big education process too. I can imagine even at the sampling level or at the consumer event level where when it comes up, a lot of people would be like, what is that? And then you have that
Absolutely.
moment to be like, well, let me tell you quickly. I'd rather, I want to talk about all these other things, but yes, B Corp is this, and this is why it's important. And it's a unique, it's a differentiator for sure. When you started Made with Local and really started ramping up, you started working with, I believe, social enterprise kitchens to help manufacture your product. That was what you were doing early on?
Yeah.
But now you're making it yourself. So, what was that business model? I mean, that would have been a transition. I can only imagine how much work that would have been. But what role did those social enterprise kitchens play in the initial development of the product and of the brand and the experience for everyone?
Oh, a huge role, right? We started working with our first social enterprise bakery here in Nova Scotia in 2014. So we were a farmers market table from 2012 to 2014. And then I became pregnant with my daughter in 2014, at which point I needed help manufacturing, of course, because my belly was like physically getting in the way. And we partnered with this little social enterprise bakery here in Nova Scotia, which is essentially an organization that runs a bakery program that employs adults with barriers to the mainstream workforce. And that can mean any multitude of things. And they did not discriminate about what barriers you were or were not experiencing in your life, but they were welcomed into this bakery program, and they made food for companies, small companies like mine. So we started working with them then and grew into, over the course of the next 8 years, a beautiful partnership where they expanded their footprint of their bakery several times to accommodate our growth. We innovated new products together. We became really, really close with them. Like, the relationship that we still have with that organization here in Nova Scotia it's really special. And the only tension point ever that really existed between us and them was that we were growing faster than they could keep up. And, then what we would do in those moments, what we would solve with an incremental production partnership, we kept them running as much as possible until there was a point where, as you mentioned there, we had the opportunity to buy our own bakery. And we had a conversation with them saying, we've had this opportunity. It's something that's going to allow us to bring all of our manufacturing back home here to Nova Scotia and really control the quality, because that was one thing, admittedly, was our main challenge with running at times two separate bakeries, the social enterprise co-packer here in Nova Scotia, and then a second one somewhere else. It was really hard to keep things consistent. And this organization here and local to us, called the Flower Cart Group, they were, cared as much as I did, if not more, that the best possible bars were making it out into the market. So I knew that they were also keen to see us pull things back under our own roof. And the way that we really saw the transition of us moving out of that partnership and into our own space was that we graduated, right? We had this incredible partnership together for 8 years where we created many jobs and opportunities for adults with disabilities. We just had this amazing ripple effect out into the community there. And then it was time to, create space for other brands to follow up in behind us and do that same thing in partnership with them. So it was an incredible journey, and it continues to be. We still actually outsource, I would say, kind of like odd jobs to their team, because that's what they love doing, is different labeling projects. And, if we have small little off jobs that we need some extra hands on, they're the first person we call always.
That's so great. What a great genesis, and what great people to have in your back pocket.
Yeah.
I've been in some food factories lately. I'm always blown away by all the automation and the computers and the software and the technology, and everything's so intense. I feel my anxiety go up every time I walk into a food factory. But running your own manufacturing, running it efficiently, but it's one of the sustainability, categories that can be really hard to tackle, whether it's water or waste or energy or all these different things. So what do you guys have in place right now? And when it comes to the sustainability efforts, what are you doing, or what are you hoping to do with your manufacturing to really lean into, for the planet, doing the best job you can?
Yeah, great question. So our secret weapon at Made with Local, which is not such a secret because everybody says this, but our secret weapon is having like the absolute best team ever. We have a world-class team at our bakery here. It is led by our COO, Brian Alloway. He is an obsessive around lean manufacturing. So if you want to talk about waste, or the reduction of waste, or the eradication of waste in all its shapes and forms, he's the guy, and he's leading the charge down at our bakery alongside, we've got our incredible director of operations, Michaela Dentino, our quality manager, Leah Jessup, Leah, I blanked on her last name for a second, Leah Jessup, and an incredible production team who are constantly just thinking about continual improvement. What's the best way to be, doing process ABC, and really keeping a close eye on how we're obviously running a tight ship from an operations and costing perspective, but also from an environmental footprint, because in addition to all of these folks being exceptionally amazing at their operations jobs, they're also values aligned humans that love working for Made with Local and have that kind of set commitment to sustainability in their own lives too, right? So yeah, we're just, I don't want to say lucky, but we've got an amazing team who are paying attention to this at all times. Even, odd little projects that we've had at the facility, like rehoming our plastic buckets that are almond butter, nut butters, honey comes in, finding homes for those, whether it be for people in the community or different, you never know what people are going to use things for. So we found new homes for those instead of just throwing them out. We're making sure they're being reused.
Maybe to house everyone's Lego collections.
Honest to God, whatever. You know what? We don't ask any questions, but if somebody else in the marketplace wants to come pick up a bunch of clean, perfectly good buckets and they got a use for them, great. It's better than them going in the bin.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so there's so many little ways that our team down at the facility has been constantly thinking about how to run, a lean and sustainable facility.
And when you're cranking out so much food, it can be hard to take a moment to, put some time and energy towards addressing that issue or doing this better or more sustainably. It's hard work. Are you guys production wise? You have lots of capacity and you're just kind of getting going, or how often is the team doing production runs?
Yeah, so we run Monday to Friday, 8 to 4:30 or so. So fairly standard shift. We have 8 folks on our production floor most times. And I would say, again, which is the case for me with local, at any given time, we create capacity and then we fill it right back up. We're not out of space. We have lots of space and we're putting in new automation and new processes. Like I just mentioned, that continuous improvement that our team is always focused on. We're kind of just about a year into the game at this point with it under our own roof and constantly looking for ways to create incremental gains in capacity. But we've got lots of space and a team that's ready to take this thing to the next level. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your brand for a second. Sustainability is baked right into your name. Literally, that sounded like a tagline. Sorry about that. But made with local, it's very descriptive. There's not even a nickname or an acronym that really helps make it faster to say or whatever. But what's the story behind the brand name? And yeah, let's talk about the name Made with Local. I mean, we've talked about there's some very tangible, reasons for it that you've kind of outlined already, but how does the name resonate with retailers? How do consumers resonate with the name? Talk about the brand name for a moment.
Yeah. So the brand name was born at the farmer's market. Actually, I lied. It wasn't born at the farmer's market. It was born sitting around my friend's dining room table at like 1 a.m. after there was a sea of open wine bottles.
Good strategy.
Big potluck dinner. Yeah, it was not a boardroom table at some fancy branding agency. It was at my friend's farmhouse after a big supper and too many bottles of wine. And my co-founder at the time and I, we were riffing on all these different names and with all of our friends. And that one we just decided to go with. So again, at that stage in the game, this is 2011, I was not thinking about the ramifications of this name on a trademark, on international sale, on anything outside the context of this little 5-foot farmer's market table. That was all this name needed to do for me, was to be the name for this little space. But lo and behold, here we are, far beyond that dining room table and far beyond the farmer's market table too. And I would say, it is a very descriptive name, and it's something that I think we've come to own it, over the last 10 plus years. It's something that we've continued to really settle into. And the concept of local for us is something that we've continued to build on. I won't say try and change, because I don't like the idea of it feeling like greenwashing, because it's not at all. But this idea around local impact is something that we've continued to double down on over the course of this last decade growing the business. And it's, even though, we're a lot bigger now than we were in 2012 at the farmer's market, it is something that I think we've grown to be synonymous with trust and transparency with our customers all across Canada and now into the US. So
amazing.
The barriers or any roadblocks or hiccups that we thought we might run into with promoting our brand called Made with Local to American consumers has so far been a complete non-issue. People just love the product because it's an incredible product, and they understand, where we're based and where we're local to, and they love us for that, not in spite of it.
That's awesome. So good. Okay, let's talk about packaging. Go back to the packaging here for a second. So first off, most snack bars come in like some funky, spacey foil. What is this material? Is this paper? Is this paper towel? What is this material?
We do use, it's a multi-layer plastic foil laminate currently. Our packaging has evolved over the years based on, the needs of the business. And lots of other factors, but really right now we have a very craft paper look. Our original packaging back in the day was actually paper laid over foil and plastic. So we had this extra earthy kind of vibe going on, but over time that became unsustainable from a cost perspective. So right now we are using a fairly conventional film, but it's made in a way that feels very different in that most bars, I would say maybe every other single bar in the category right now in Canada is wrapped on an automated machine where the packaging looks like it had, it's mechanically wrapped. You have the thin seal on the back. It's just a different type of construction where we really love the way our packaging looks. It's still hand packed, and it has just a different shape, and it gives us a lot more space to tell our story on. So that's where you get that sort of flat envelope sort of shape. And I will say we are working right now actively on some trials to transition to a film that has better sustainability properties. That's not to go off on a total sidebar, but my background actually, while I started Made with Local, was in waste management. So I understand a lot and maybe sometimes too much about the recycling and composting industries in different municipalities and nationally across Canada. So for me, it's taken a lot of time and research to figure out, what technology is available on the packaging market that actually is more sustainable and is widely recyclable or widely compostable and is compliant with municipal waste management programs in the majority of places across the country. So we are working on that.
It's complicated. And like you said, more about it than I do, but anytime anyone talks about it, my brain just wants to explode because even just hearing stats around the percentage of communities in Canada, that have proper recycling programs that can handle packaging that is more sustainable.
Right.
That's just not there in a support network. And in the US, it's even worse. So it is a hard road ahead for sure. And I think one of the challenges in sustainability, and B Corps, I'm sure, feel this, is that they kind of feel like they have to do everything to be as like 100% sustainable. And that's a really hard thing to measure up to. And so I think that, tackle the things you can and work towards the things you can. I was talking to somebody about Tetra Pak and the challenges of Tetra packaging. And, it's not easy. So, it's just, it kind of comes leaning into the hard things. That's what I think is most notable. You, sticking with packaging, again, you give a lot of real estate on your packaging to your values and your sustainability. And like on the front, it says like all good stuff, real food bar. On the back, it says consciously sourced ingredients, nourishing local communities. You've got the B Corp logo. Like this is a lot of real estate when it comes to like in the category, like your competitors. People in the set are not saying these things as loudly and as big as you're saying them. So what does the process look like to make these sustainable messages like so big on pack? And what role are these messages having to getting retailers and consumers excited, like on pack, visible by everybody all the time?
Yeah. So you're right. We go hard when it comes to the sustainability and community centered messaging. And it's because we can, right? And it's because it's our whole thing. Like most other bars in the category are competing on a singular nutritional fact, right? This bar has 20 grams of protein. This bar has 0 sugar. This bar is paleo, whatever, keto, some other thing that's going to be gone in like 5 more years. So there's all of this noise happening in the category around trends. Anytime a new grocery trend comes about, it's going to manifest itself in the bar category first, and beverage probably too. But those are some of the earliest categories to get hit by
mushrooms. Got to put mushrooms in there, Sheena.
Yeah. Oh,
mushroom snack bars.
No shade on mushrooms. I love mushrooms. I'm not throwing any shade.
I love it. I know.
I'll throw shade at keto all day. I got all the time in the world for mushrooms.
Excellent.
So there's all this noise, right? So what we do instead of just playing to the lowest common denominator in that space is to create a product that is absolutely delicious. It's really approachable. It's family friendly, and it has such a bigger impact on the world outside of just having 0 sugar or 20 grams of protein or whatever. Anybody can literally do that. Anybody can make a bar that has 20 grams of protein or 0 sugar if you want. It's not that impressive. Sorry, everybody else. But what we're doing is the over the course of 10 years, building really strong relationships with local farmers and food producers. We're constantly putting, our thinking hat on around how we can use our business as an impact machine, right? That's what it means to be a purpose-driven business or an impact-driven business, is how can I use my business as a force for good? And there's not really anybody else in our category who's even thinking about that, it seems. So we are really loud and proud about it because it's not something that the big brands can really easily just rip off either. Again, like any other singular nutrition fact, that doesn't really have any protection around it. We've built this trust and transparency in our brand, and are really proud to put that out front because it's special to us.
Very cool. And you've got a QR code. Do people use it? I have this love-hate relationship with QR codes, and COVID sort of brought it back, and I think it's here to stay now. But you've got a QR code, and the design, to be honest, is actually really charming. It's like, scan me. It's on a cute little sign. I'm like, okay, I was just told by a snack bar to scan. I'm going to do it. But are people hitting it? Are people going to your website? I know you sell products. I buy bars from your website. So what's sort of this connection to pull consumers into your website and into your network?
Yeah, so the QR code vision that we have currently, it does just send to our website, which is fine. But I have a much bigger dream for the QR code strategy on our pack. And that is, a bit more of an immersive experience into truly what makes that unique flavor that you have in your hand in that moment so special, and really connects you to, for example, if you held, a blueberry almond butter bar in your hand, it's connecting you to Van Dyke's Blueberries in Shelburne, Nova Scotia, and their family farm that they run here, and that same local honey that's sourced from just down the road from our bakery, and the regenerative organic oats. I just wanted to have this really beautiful story that you can then tune into from the comfort of your, your phone screen for 20 or 30 seconds and learn more about why this little bundle of, nutrition in your hand is so much more than that. So that's in the works, but it's not instituted yet.
Yeah. It's always hard to activate those types of things. It was Ethical Bean, the coffee roaster, back in 2010.
Mhm.
They had a QR code. I'd never seen a QR code. No one knew what to do with a QR code back then, but it was basically, they just wanted to tell us stories like these beans were grown there by these people. And this is the journey that these beans have taken. So what you're doing there, I think that's a good aspiration to go for. I think people can get excited about it, especially, it's on the back of the pack. It's most likely sort of a loyalty sort of thread. It's not, someone who's brand new to the brand, maybe they're going to hit it. But for those that, maybe this is their second or third purchase, or they've been buying it for a while and they haven't, it's not easy to, as a consumer, to go, oh, I'm going to go to that brand's website and learn more. It's sort of that can be a little bit of a hard transition. So being able to sort of lean into those stories and tell them more boldly, which you already are, that's a really good connection.
Yeah. And I mean, that's part of the reason too, why we are so active on social media, right? Instagram and TikTok are kind of two main storytelling platforms. And I don't know about you, but that's where I go right away. If I find a new brand that I'm really, my interest is piqued around, I immediately go to their Instagram first. I don't even bother to Google them. I want to see what they're doing on social. Mm-hmm. And that's the way that we prioritize our storytelling and assume that our customers are kind of coming at us from that angle as well.
Yeah. And at the retail level, it's interesting to see how that plays out at retail. When I shop, there's a Canadian superstore in my neighborhood, and I don't shop there all the time, but when I do, there's no cell signal in there. Like my phone drops to like emergency mode, like 911 is the only thing I can do when I'm in this superstore. And so my shopping experience now is sort of modified. I'm like, oh, I can't, check social or hit a QR code or look up something, which I tend to do. I'm not necessarily your average shopper, but it actually gets in the way of the shopping experience. So when I am in a grocery store where I do have a proper connection, I agree, my family won't shop with me because I just stop and I'll gawk at a thing and I'm zooming. I can't talk. I'm looking up something because I'm curious. And I think that more and more consumers, especially those that their intention is to buy more sustainable food. And of course, everyone, especially in our industry, talks about price being the biggest barrier to sustainably intended consumers to them actually doing it. Mm-hmm. Price is a factor. We all know that, but it's not the only factor. And I think that the curiosity and the intent and yes, there might be a little bit of virtue signal going on. There might even be a bit of ego going on. That's why we're probably not going to see grocery stores in the future that have no branding, because people are associate their beliefs and their values with those that, make products that feel and act the same way. And that branding and packaging helps communicate that. But the shopping experience is becoming more and more digital, even in the grocery store. So it's getting kind of weird, but it's getting kind of cool.
Absolutely.
Where do people find your product other than your Made with Local website? Where do people find your products? Which kind of stores? Where are you?
Yeah, so we're available in about 3,000 grocery stores all across Canada. We're in Shoppers Drug Mart as well, outside of the usual sort of grocery sphere, and lots of amazing independent health food stores, coffee shops, etc. There's a pretty extensive list, I would say, on our website. You can find retailers near you, and of course, you can find us online and on our different social media channels as well, at Made with Local on Instagram and TikTok.
Very cool. Yeah, I found you guys on Instacart the other day, so that was cool to see. But I'm a loyalist. I'm on your mailing list. I'll keep going to the mothership.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you for your time and for everything you're doing in your community. And sustainability is not an easy thing to do in the food space, and you guys are doing beautifully. So thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed hearing Sheena's story and how her team is making the future brighter through food. Do yourself a favor. Grab a Made with Local snack bar the next time you're in the grocery store or shopping online. They're so yum, yum good. Yum, yum good. Always wanted to do that. Okay, focus. Listen, if you want a chance at winning this month's $250 grocery gift card, open up a web browser and go to aisle42podcast.com. All right. That's a wrap. I'll see you in the future.